Judgment.
Man, I feel like it's been forever. So much going on, man. Tony Cutillo, Final Judgment right here, live on YouTube, live on Facebook, live on Twitter, wherever you get your podcast from as well. Brought to you by Heat Ratio Sports and Win Daily Sports. As always, your one-stop shop for all things sports fantasy and betting. It's been a while, man, but we got to talk about this free agency frenzy, this insanity, this up and down roller coaster across the NFL. It's hit Philadelphia. It really has. It's hit Philadelphia. And this was going to be a huge offseason. It's still a huge offseason for Howie Roseman. The judgment's out. Listen, this show, the Final Judgment, the judgment's out on Howie Roseman. This is going to be the most important offseason of Howie Roseman's career, in my opinion. 100%. There are a ton of decisions that Howie Roseman has to make in this offseason. Extensions, trades, free agents, draft picks, compensation, compensatory picks, who to let go, who to keep. There's a lot. There's a lot to juggle. And this year, most importantly, it's all going to have to come together because you're going to have to figure out a way to pay a franchise quarterback. And that is absolutely in the works. So I want to hear from you. Speak out. Talk about it. What do you think? Best move so far? Surprise move? I mean, listen, it's only been a couple days, okay? But I want to hear about what you think is going on right now. What's next? My man Adam, what's up, Adam? Checking in. As always, what's the next big shoe to fall? Okay, because there's been a lot of moves, and we're going to go over all of them. Some surprising to me, some I'm a little perturbed about, and some I'm not surprised. Okay, today was exactly what I wanted. I'm going to be honest with you. I did a show, last show we did here live. I specifically said that if I were the Eagles and I were looking to save money per se and figure out how to way to keep the younger players, I would sign James Bradbury to a 3 to 4 year deal, and I would trade Darius Slay. Now, they signed James Bradbury today, and Darius Slay is out there, right? They're trying to find a dance partner, right? Adam says, surprise move, Kazir White. I'm surprised he got that much money. Put it that way. I am. I'm surprised he got up to the max of $11 million. I like Kazir White when he first came in, but he really didn't show me what I thought he was going to give me when he was in San Diego or LA, whatever the hell you want to call him, in Charger land, for lack of a better term. But I think that linebacker in this defense, that they show this is what they're going to do. They're not going to overpay. We saw, listen, we've seen this before. We've seen this over and over again, that they do not pay linebackers. They stick to 1 year deals. They stick to guys that they draft. Now, I will tell you that I really think that a name to look out for is Kyle Van Noy. I think he's a guy that can play multiple positions, and a guy that I think they do like. So, if he hasn't signed yet as of this show, or when you're watching this show, I think that's a guy they have interest in. But this is why I say that this is the most important offseason for Howie Rosen, because the Kobe Dean's going to have to play. Okay. My man Dean is going to have to play. That draft is going to have to mean something. Jordan Davis is going to have to play. Okay. Milton Williams is going to have to play. These guys have to play. Okay. And this is how you build championship teams when you face a salary cap and you have a franchise quarterback. It's exactly the way you have to do it. But you can't miss year and year and year when we talk to draft picks. It just cannot happen, right? When you think about what was the last impactful player that we drafted on the defensive side of the ball, okay, we were hoping it's going to be Jordan Davis, but we don't know that yet, right? We have no idea. I mean, you may have to look at Josh Sweat, who was what, a third or a fourth round pick. So, what early pick from the defensive side have we drafted over the last few years that's been an impact player? I don't know. So we're going to have to do that, right? We can't pay everybody. Adam says, what do you think about Rashad Penny? I love the Rashad Penny signing. I do. It makes me wonder about Miles Sanders. He's a completely different running back, but Miles Sanders, I think, did everything and anything to basically say he wanted to be here. He showed you he was able to be healthy and play an integral role last night on the offensive side of the ball. A career year for Miles Sanders. I'm just really surprised, but his whole tenure here has been surprising. The entire tenure of Miles Sanders has been surprising to me with his playing time, with his touches. I just always felt that there was some kind of disconnect between him and the Eagles within the locker room, within the coaching staff, with ownership. I'm just not sure. I could be way off base here. It just seems really weird the way that whole situation played out. I mean, listen, you know, a guy, Rashad Penny, who 6.8 yards per carry when he is playing is phenomenal. Right? It's phenomenal. He's a big guy. He's your more athletic, like Garrett Blunt, for lack of a better term, for the interior role that he played for us in that Super Bowl. So I think that's another thing, that we look at. My man Joe checking in says Howie was hinting it would be a slight retool when the players were saying they'll be back. He said a lot has to happen. He knew the work he'd have to do. I completely agree. I mean, one thing I will say about Howie is Howie went into this. He knew exactly what he was going to do. Howie knew exactly what he was going to do. He knew exactly the targets. He knew exactly the way he was going to approach this, right? And the first shoe to drop, I think, and listen, I'm going to say this very respectfully, okay? But if you haven't figured out yet that Darius Slay has a tremendous ego, I think that you're missing the signs. Okay. So I'm not saying he shouldn't be a very good player. Very, very good player, right? One of the best cornerbacks we've ever seen here play in Philadelphia. We've rescued him from the Motor City, brought him into a winning team, right? But listen, the man wants to get paid. He knows that this is the last year of a deal, a 3-year extension that he signed. He knows that basically, here's the thing. He could basically be cut after June 1st, and it's a very, very minor cap hit. There's no more guaranteed money. So, listen, the leverage, I don't know if it's really there. Now, if another team wants to sign Darius Slay to a 3 to 4 year deal at 32 years old, hey, God bless them, right? But, he's going to have two options. It's going to be go out and try to find a trade, which they're allowing him to do, or play on the last year of his deal. And listen, I get it. He wants security. He knows there's no more guaranteed money. He wants to make sure the Earl Thomas effect doesn't happen here, where he gets hurt on the last year of a deal. He wants to 100% know that he's okay, to be back. And I don't fault him for that. I just think on this team, it's just not going to work. The way this team, it's not going to work. My man Trevor checking in. Jigsaw, what's up, Trev? As always, Joe says Sanders couldn't stay on the field with two coaches. Says something was up with him. Yeah, Joe, it was really weird. I don't know. And that's what you make a great point by saying, more than one coaching staff, more than one regime. I mean, it just consistently went through regime after regime. Something was off with the Miles Sanders effect here. It just really was. I don't know what else to say about it. But all I know is Rashad Penny, very, very good signing. I like it. It costs you nothing. Okay. It allows you to now use Kenny Gainwell in that more of that feature pass catching role. Rashad Penny will mow anybody down if he's healthy. Perfect to come behind this offensive line. Great compliment. He just has to stay on the field. And here's the good thing about this move, in my opinion, is, guess what? By him being healthy, okay, which means less touches, which means even healthier, right? Which means, he doesn't have to be a feature back on this team. So if we can get Rashad Penny, and this is listen, the formula is there. Okay, the formula is there. When we went to the big dance, okay, and we won the big dance, okay, it was Corey Clement, it was Jay Ajayi, and it was LeGarrette Blount. It was a three-headed monster. Okay, we re-signed Boston Scott today. We have Kenny Gainwell. We have Rashad Penny, and they're going to draft a running back. They're 100% going to draft a running back. So you're going to have the same MO here. LeGarrette Blount was the bruiser, right? Corey Clement was a guy who could catch out of the backfield, right? Jay Ajayi was the speedster, right? Now, the thing about Kenny Gainwell is he can kind of do both. He can run hard and he can catch the ball. So I think they've really given themselves a formidable system here of a 1-2-3 punch. And I think, again, they'll address more in the draft, 100%. Adam says, are you worried we lost so many defensive players? And do you think we have the players to fill in for the ones we lost, or do you think we will find replacements through the draft? Now, they really don't have a middle of the draft this year, right? They go first, second, third, and I think it's 6 and 7. So I think there's no fourth or no fifth. Now, they look at compensatory picks for the following year. Obviously, Howard will make moves. You'll find a 4th round pick and a 5th round pick from somebody. I think you'll definitely find that. But I think it does worry me a little bit. Now, it all depends on who else they bring back, right? So let's break it down. You look at the defense. Right. As of right now, you haven't lost Darius Slay. Right. So your secondary basically stays intact. Okay. So you still have Darius Slay. You still have James Bradbury. Okay. Now you lose 2 safeties, which are huge. I will tell you this. I honestly think that the Marcus Epps loss is going to be very, very hurtful, more than people think. And again, is he starting caliber safety? I'm not sure yet, but he did play very well. He didn't hurt you at all. He actually graded out very, very well when he played in the starting role and when he was on the field in general. So he didn't get a huge deal from the Raiders, but he got enough money. That was starter money, but enough to where, I like his ability to be able to step in, right? So I think that you're going to miss that presence. You can't have everything, right? But I think the Eagles are gambling. I think they really think, and again, my man Trevor checking in. So is CJ Gardner-Johnson coming back, or is he leaving? Your honest opinion? I'll tell you what, Trevor, I think he's coming back. I do. I think that the Philadelphia Eagles, I think they knew he was their number one priority. I also think that they also knew that the market, the draft, I should say, was very deep in safety. So I think they knew that maybe the money that CJ was wanting wasn't going to be out there. They were banking on that. And I will say this, that this money that they gave to James Bradbury, which was a very, very team-friendly deal. This is what happens when you go to the Super Bowl, okay, where people know that you're close again. When you have a franchise quarterback, they're willing to take a little less money in order to play again for a ring. And Bradbury liked the culture here. He enjoyed it. He said it, right? He was quoted. You see the quotes, see them all over Twitter, okay? So he wanted to be here. He took less dollars to be here. Okay. The running back situation is less dollars to be here. Not paying TJ Edwards is less dollars to be here. Okay. Not paying Marcus Epps is less dollars to be here. They are banking 100% to re-sign CJ Gardner-Johnson. That's what they're doing. And I think that, he knows that. And I think that they want him to establish a market. And I think that they'll go from there. And so my honest opinion, Trev, that seeing Bradbury sign, I think honestly, people may think it's a preclude to CJ Gardner-Johnson going away. I do not think that. I think this is a sign for them to get back CJ Gardner-Johnson. If I had my own opinion, I would say that Darius Slay is the one that's most likely not going to be here, depending on how they formulate that whole, whether they find a trade, whatever it is. I just think that he could be the odd man out when it's all said and done. I think that's the tough decision, right? I think that it's going to be Bradbury and Slay, or it's going to be Bradbury and Gardner-Johnson. I think that's kind of, their mantra. I think that they had a priority list of CJ Gardner-Johnson 1, Darius Slay 2. And what I mean by that is Darius Slay restructure, because he is in the last year of his deal and his cap hit is exponentially high. Okay. So I think right off the bat, they went to him and they said, yo, what can we do here? We want to restructure. And Slay was like, nah, I want to get paid. You heard him. He said he's about his money. He wants to get paid, right? So he talked about that. So in his mind, he wants a new contract. He wants a 2 to 3 year deal. That's what he wants. So when the Philadelphia Eagles said, okay, he's not going to play ball, they pivoted. They said, okay, we'll let you go out there and test the market. Okay, trying to find a dance partner, try to find a trade partner. Okay, but they also said this is going to give us the inside track. We need to go talk to James Bradbury camp, and we need to see if we can bring him back on a very, not, I wouldn't say team friendly, so to speak, but I think player and team friendly. I think they both get what they want. Few dollars less. I've said that all the time. Listen, I know it's easy for me, but what's the difference between 338 and 342? Right? I mean, honestly, when you're talking about that kind of money, I think it all comes down to, do you go to an environment to where maybe you're not as comfortable and you take $3 million more? Is it really worth it at the end? Is it worth it? Taxes $1 million probably. Is it really worth it? Probably not. You stay where, you can hit your incentives. You stay where you're at a good organization. And let's face it. Now, this probably be his last big money contract. So, possibly. Okay. But if it's not, all you need to do is look at the guys who did leave, who got paid, right? They got paid because they came from a first-class organization and a very, very good culture and a very good competitive football team. So now they're getting, these players, just like coaches, are getting plucked out of the air, getting plucked from this team. So you could come to this team on a one-year deal and know that you're going to play well. You're going to be in the spotlight. You're going to be competitive. And at the same time, it's going to help you get paid later on, whether it be from the team that you're on in the Philadelphia Eagles or be another franchise in the NFL. Now, one thing I will say, I'd love to hear from you guys and hear from everybody out there. Are you worried if Darius Slay does go, that now James Bradbury, he's going to be covering the number one receiver on each team, not the number 2? Are you worried that James Bradbury now, will be exposed in a more high profile role? I think Bradbury's a terrific corner. I don't know. I mean, do you know? Do we know? We don't know. So that'll all have to play itself out, right? So it'll be curious to see how that all plays out, once this is all said and done. Trevor says, when do you see the Jalen Hurts drop? Listen, man, honestly, I personally think, Trev, I think that contract's done, man. I do. I think that contract is done. I think the details are already, being worked out. I think they have an idea. And I think that's why they're able to do what they can do. Listen, Howie Roseman knows, the amount of money he can spend. I don't think you make that Bradbury deal today. I don't think you pay Jason Kelce 1 year, $14.5 million, make him the highest paid center once again this year. I don't think you do that if you don't feel you're able to sign, Jalen Hurts at a very, very good number. I don't think you do any of those deals. I think that deal is 100% done. I would be absolutely floored if anything came out that it wasn't. I think that, they're just working it all. Listen, you're talking about a $270 million contract, right? You're talking about guarantees. You're talking about escalators. You're talking about, signing bonuses and incentives. And, there's so much that goes into this. This isn't an easy contract to negotiate. It's really not. Obviously they set on a number, but it's all the parameters that go into that. So it's going to take some time. But, if you go to the table in good faith and both parties say, this is the number we want to be at, and they agree to a number, it doesn't matter how that contract's formulated. It's that that Jalen Hurts gets that actual number, and him getting that number in those discussions, we're probably like, listen, if we kind of stretch this out over here or there, it'll allow us to do this year and next year. And obviously, that is where they have to write those details down in a blueprint. So I think that it's done. I think it'll be announced eventually, obviously, but I think 100% that they knew this, or they would have to stay in pat and figure out what are they going to do. Can they afford to sign these guys or not? I mean, listen, when you're talking about the NFL salary cap, 12 to $13 million is a lot. Okay. And even if it's stretched out over 3 or 4 years, so that's a big number. When you talk about free agency, I mean, look at the Cowboys. They're strapped to like $11 million to be able to spend because of some of those terrible contracts. Speaking one of Zeke Elliott, right? So, yeah, listen, we're not going to do that in Howie we trust, right? I think it all starts from there. But just looking at this, signing with the Eagles right now, straight from Dave Zangaro, NBC Sports. Just right now, Rashad Penny, right? So that's the actual free agent that you sign. Now, obviously, they're all free agents, but that's the guy from another squad that you sign. But Jason Kelsey. I will still say this. I'll continue to say it, and this isn't to piggyback off of any other national radio host or TV host or local, whatever, WIP or 97.5. I fully agree. If anybody said it, I don't know, but I will say it, that Jason Kelsey is the most important signing you can make this entire offseason. He's the most important piece. Okay. I'm not ready for Cam Jurgens to take over at center. And I think everybody already knows that you're probably going to lose Sayamalu. Okay. So what you have to look at is, you have to be able to keep that intact under center, and having Jason Kelsey with this extraordinary running game, okay, with Jalen Hurts being protected, it's a huge deal. So this Jason Kelsey deal to me was the most important thing that you would have to do, and they got it done. So you get your guy, you get your franchise center, your Hall of Fame center, you get it at 100%. Mike says, I thought he went to the Bears. Now I'm not sure. I listen, the Bears were on a free agent frenzy, right? They were on a free agent frenzy. I mean, they signed linebackers, they're making trade, which I love the trade. I don't know about you guys, but I love that trade for Justin Fields. I think that to get DJ Moore, I'm telling you what, man. I am telling you what. Again, that's a huge move. That's a huge move. As of right now, Sayamalu is still out there, but here's the thing: you have Chris Lindstrom out there signed a 5-year, $105 million extension for the Falcons. That's going to be something that money wise is going to play into whatever Sayamalu does, and I just don't think. I don't think we're going to be able to pay what he wants, right? I think he's going to get some really, really good money. And again, I think that because Jason Kelsey comes back, it gives them that back out to take Cam Jurgens, right? And to put him in the guard spot, and hopefully that you don't miss a beat, right? Yeah, Trevor says the Chicago Bears found a credit card. I'll tell you, man, I love what they're doing. Not to get off the Eagles, but just specifically, I like how they're building around Justin Fields, and they're not trying to make him somebody he's not. They say, we're going to build around this kid, just like they did here with Jalen Hurts. Let's go out and get him a number one receiver. So now you have a fantastic receiving core out there now. I mean, you have listen, DJ Moore is the absolute best compliment that you can get as a receiver for Justin Fields. Justin Fields, a guy who has to work on his accuracy going down the field. Who does it sound like? Jalen Hurts, right? Get a guy that can go across the middle, that could turn a 5-yard slant into a 50-yard out pattern, that can go deep, beat his man on coverage, give you enough separation to where you can absolutely miss, but still be able to compromise that route and be able to catch a ball. Yes, Trevor, Chase Claypool, Darnell Mooney, right? I mean, you have more Mooney and Claypool, and then you have Cole Kmet. You have a very, very capable offensive set there. That's going to give some defensive coordinators some fit. So, Chicago did a fantastic job that giving Mr. Fields the weapons and saying, you know what? We're going to go in with this young man. We know how hard it is to find a quarterback, in the NFL, how hard it is to latch on to somebody as talented as a Justin Fields. Will Justin Fields ever be a complete quarterback? I don't know. I don't know. But I'll tell you this, I'd rather have Justin Fields than Taylor Heineke, right? I'd rather have Justin Fields right now than Derek Carr. Yeah, I said it. Derek Carr to me, that's again, Derek Carr is another situation where, okay, what is he going to do out there in New Orleans? What is he going to do? I mean, honestly, like, are they going to win anything? No, not going to win anything. They paid a quarterback a ton of money to not win anything, right? I mean, that's what they did. Think about it. That's exactly what they did. They paid him a ton of money, to go out there and not do anything. My man Trevor says, Justin Fields greater than Kerry Collins, like Daniel Jones. Listen, man, Danny Jones. How about the Darren Waller move, man? I mean, look, teams in the NFL are making some really big moves. Okay, really, really big moves. Listen, Darren Waller's a big, big, big tight end, man, huge. So that's a big move for the Giants. And now they get him a reliable target, bring back Sterling Shepard as long as it's healthy, right? You have Shepard, and now you have Darren Waller, right? So, I mean, you have Saquon. So, listen, they're trying. They're trying. My man Mike says he'll play 7 games. Yeah, I don't know what happened to Waller, man. All of a sudden, he's injury prone, right? I mean, he was fine. And like last year, all of a sudden, he's injury prone. It's like absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about anybody in our division. To be honest with you, in the NFC East, I'm not worried about that at all. That is not going to bother me whatsoever. We still are the cream of the crop when we talk about that DMC East. That's for damn sure. Adam says, you think anyone going to pick up Wentz? Wow. I'll tell you what, Adam. Here's my opinion on Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is the only way Carson Wentz doesn't get picked up is if Carson doesn't allow it to happen. Unless Carson's going to realize he's not a starter in the NFL anymore, then he'll get picked up. But until then, he's going to ride out for trying to get a starting job, which is something that he can't get. Right. I mean, he could be the New York Jets backup plan. Right. I mean, they're doing everything in their power to be held hostage by Aaron Rodgers. But at the end of the day, if Aaron Rodgers says no, their fallback could be a guy like a Carson Wentz. Right. I mean, you could definitely see that. Wentz says, Trevor says Wentz going to get picked up by Joel. I can see him backing up the Vikings, man. Well, listen, I could see that, but oh my God, could you imagine gets picked up by the Vikings? 2 stiffs in Minnesota with Kirk Cousins and Carson Wentz, man. That'll be a show. I'll tell you that'll be a show. But getting back, listen, you bring back Brandon Graham on a 1-year, $6 million deal, which I think is great. You bring back Boston Scott on a 1-year deal, which is great. And you bring back James Bradbury, like we talked about, a 3-year, I think it's $38 million, a lot of incentives. Who leaving is TJ Edwards going to the Bears. Listen, I like TJ Edwards, but I wasn't going to pay that kind of money, which is fine. Listen, they got Tremaine Edwards out there too, man. That linebacking core for the Bears is going to look nice. Defense, Javon Hargrave, that's the guy I did like. But I knew he was going to get paid a lot of money. I did. He definitely, I mean, he had dollar signs written all over him. So I thought there was no way in my mind that we were going to be able to bring him back. Especially, that's why you drafted a Jordan Davis. That's why you drafted the Milton Williams a few years ago as well. So what you're hoping is, you can get a Milton Williams contribution. You can get a dominant Jordan Davis. And don't forget, man, you brought 2 guys in Joseph and Sue last year, halfway that actually were productive. So there's going to be some guys out there that either Howie can trade for or plick off of 1-year deals, or maybe, June 1st cuts or things of that nature. But they're going all in with these young guys. They have to. They have to. Right now, from the team, you're talking about Gardner Minshew. Sorry, Gardner, you're gone. Isaac Sayamalu, I would love to have him back. I just don't think it's feasible. Miles Sanders, I like what he did last year, but it looks like they don't like the guy. So hope he's somewhere else. Fletcher Cox is the interesting one. right? Fletcher Cox is the interesting one. Keep your eyes open on Fletcher Cox because I don't think there's a huge market out there for Fletcher Cox. And I think that could be your 1-year deal guy that you bring back, to give you that rotation. And listen, yeah, Fletch is a rotational player like he's been the last couple of years. He could still be productive on certain snaps. So I think that could be something they could look at. And obviously, it's the CJ Gardner Johnson, right? I mean, again, listen, here's the thing, man. I know you say Cox see you, but I don't know, Trev. Me personally, with letting Hargrave go, I would bring Fletcher Cox back on a 1-year deal before I brought anybody else on a 1-year deal, because I think he knows the system, and I think he could already be, proved they could be a rotational piece. He really do. Trevor says he could fit. He's not going to Miami, Trevor. Stop getting him out there in Miami. Stop getting him out there in Miami. I think Quinn goes or gets cut. Yeah, like I don't know, man. Like there's a lot of decisions, Adam. I think you asked earlier too. Listen, Robert Quinn did nothing for us when he came over from Chicago. Right now, he's just out on the outside looking in. Remember, he was on the last year of his deal, right? So, I mean, he's not a guy that we own right now. So he's just going to probably go somewhere else, or may retire. I mean, you talk about a guy. The bottom fell out of Robert Quinn. Sometimes you get old fast, right? Father Time again catches up. I say this all the time. I know it's a cliche, but two people that are undefeated are Mother Nature and Father Time. And when Father Time catches up, we saw Doc, right? We saw Roy Halladay in this town for the Philadelphia Phillies have the bottom just drop right out of him, like instantly. He just wasn't Doc anymore. Robert Quinn was 1 year removed from 20 sacks in a Pro Bowl, and he just couldn't get to the quarterback, man. So I think maybe the knees, the legs, it happens. And I wish the guy well, man. I do. I wish the guy well. 100%. My man Mike checking in. My man Mike Stone. What's up, Mike? He says, when does Hurts deal get done? Is that going to happen this offseason after the surge in free agents? Yeah, Mike, listen, this is what I said earlier. I know you just joined in. So my personal feeling, and again, it's only a personal feeling. And I don't have any inside sources, but I will tell you, I follow a lot of really good people. Chris Franklin's one of them from NJ.com. Make sure you give a follow. Been on the show before. Fantastic writer, fantastic articles. My own personal feeling, look at how the numbers are played out. I don't think that James Bradbury gets signed if the deal isn't done already for Jalen Hurts. I don't think that Jason Kelsey gets a 1-year deal of $14 million if the deal isn't already done for Jalen Hurts. And what I mean by that is the parameters have to be done already. Howie already has to have an idea in his mind of what that market value between him and Jalen Hurts, what that fine line was going to be. He has to already know that because he's already made a push. People aren't talking. He's already made a push to CJ Gardner Johnson. So he's already offered money to CJ Gardner Johnson. So you don't just go out there throwing money around, not knowing if you got a deal yet with your quarterback for your franchise. So I think that deal, in my opinion, is already done. And I just think it's putting the pen to paper. Like $200 million guaranteed. I definitely listen. I mean, overall deal is going to come in for me between 260 and 275. I mean, just look at Kyler Murray, what he got, and what he got. So you got to say to yourself, wait a minute. If he got 200 plus here, Jalen's definitely going to get that. And guaranteed, yes, I think that they'll spread that out. And I think, listen, what's great about this is there's going to be so many cool storylines with this because obviously Jalen Hurts has an all-female staff when it comes to representatives and agents, which I think is fantastic. Women in sports. I mean, I have a daughter who played sports for a long time. A lot of these people have a daughter. It's like to see them get their opportunity. So it's great. I mean, there's going to be a lot of storylines coming out of that, and I think it's going to be a huge professional contract. I think Jalen knows that, number one, he wants to be here. He's already said that, but he also knows that he has to do good by all of his people as well. I mean, there is a players union, right? So and people have to remember that. Like a lot of people say, oh, I just take the discount, take less money. Listen, I get all that. And I know you want that to happen, but at the end of the day, there is a players union, right? So he, if he decides to take a lot less money, that's only going to bring the market value down for future players. So there's got to be a lot of creativity in this kind of deal. And I think we have the guy to do it in Howie Roseman. I think he has the agency to do it. And I think Jalen Hurts is the guy to do it with. So, Mike, yes, I would be shocked if it's anything less than $200 million guaranteed. I really did listen. If Kirk Cousins can get a 3-year, $84 million guaranteed contract a few years ago, Jesus goddamn Christ. If Jalen Hurts can't get, 3 times as much, then what is this world coming to in the NFL? So I think he's proved his weight in gold in the sense that of how hard of a worker he is. I mean, listen, we hit the nail on the head with him, man. Like, I don't usually get cocky and say, hey, Jigsaw is always right, because I'm not. I'm wrong as hell a lot of times. A lot of my takes are way off. But one thing I always said about Jalen Hurts is I knew he was that dude. He was that guy. He was the guy that got into the film room at 5:30 and left at 9 o'clock. You heard Nick Sirianni talk about it. He was the last guy out of the building every single day. And I will tell you this, he will continue. Money will not change Jalen Hurts. That's the one thing you don't have to worry about. There's no clauses in Jalen Hurts' contract that says you have to study game film. You have to stop playing video games, right? We have a professional football player. So again, I was all in with Jalen. I'm continue to be all in with Jalen. I couldn't be more happy for us as a fan base and him as a person, and I cannot wait. And Mike, you're right. It keeps cap flexibility depending on how they spread it out. Because remember, this is going, here's the other thing. What people have to understand too. He's still on the last year of a deal right now, of a rookie deal. Okay. So his cap number will not hit you this year because it will be an extension. This is why this gets so tricky. This is why I'm saying I know the deal's already done. It gets tricky because all the parameters have to be put in place. So that's why I was saying it allows Howie to go out and spend, knowing that the cap this year is not going to be impacted. It's going to be for the future. So he could already have those numbers saying in his head, okay, well, next year, Jalen's number is going to hit us. But this year it's not. But I already know what that number is going to be. That's why I'm saying I think he already knows. I think that I would say, listen, it's March 14th. I would be surprised, if it goes as long as the NFL draft. I think maybe by April 1st. You'll get it down. You get through this first wave of free agency. The Eagles can kind of figure out everything they're doing there. And then I think, they already know that thing's done. They already know. They know what's going on. So, yeah, Mike says, love to see a long-term deal like that. Yeah, absolutely, man. Listen, I mean, he's the next Mahomes, man. I mean, listen, that was a great thing, Mike. And glad to hear from you too, brother. As always, love watching the kids grow up. As always, love watching you being successful, everybody being healthy. There's nothing more like it in the world, man. It's a great thing, and I appreciate you checking in. I mean, watching that Super Bowl in Mahomes and Hurts, and I've said this again, man. So blessed. Like, seriously, like so blessed. Again, Mike says, makes sense, Tony. Love your show. 7 years, 210 guaranteed, 350 total package. That is my man, Mike Stone, my man from Certa Pro Paters right there, getting that plug in. My man doing big things. 7 years, 210, he says. I like that. 210 guaranteed. 350 total package, man. It's all about like the total package Lex Luger for all your wrestling fans out there. Trevor, I know you like that reference right there, but I like that, Mike. We're gonna screenshot that, Mike, because if that comes out to be that deal, man, Mike Stone predicted that deal. But yeah, listen, we're blessed because we were able to watch two guys in Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts just tear the roof off in Arizona. And again, being able to witness what we get to witness for the next 5 to 6 to 7 years, man. Like, that's so exciting. It is. It's really exciting for me as a football fan. Yeah, obviously I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan. I bleed green. You know that. Okay. But I get to talk sports for a living. I mean, how do you not love that, right? I'm blessed and be able to talk sports, to be able to watch sports and to be able to watch these guys on the field, be able to watch these guys set records. And, it is an amazing, amazing thing. listen, man, make sure you're subscribing. Make sure you're subscribing to the show. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel, The Final Judgment. If you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on Twitter, make sure you get over Final Judgment with Tony Cutillo on YouTube. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button. Powered, as always, by Heat Ratio Sports and Win Daily Sports. Make sure you're checking everything out that Judge Jigsaw has to offer at Judge Jigsaw on Instagram, on Twitter. If you haven't noticed, man, I got a new intern, man, stepping up the game with the quote graphics and the votes. Get involved, man. Get involved. He's doing a fantastic job. I love it. More to come with that. So make sure you get involved, man. A lot of stuff to talk. My man Mike says, we're breaking in the little Sixers talking. The Eagles show says JoJo MVP. Mike, I will do a Sixers show soon, but I will say that, the national narrative is starting to flip a little bit into JoJo's favor. And it looks like maybe finally people are jumping on board a little bit and they want to put JoJo up there and say, you know what? This should be the MVP. It should be the MVP. But listen, all faith in Howie Roseman. I just wanted to quick talk what we think, what we're feeling. Fantastic for everybody checking in. Next shoe to drop, in my opinion, CJ Gardner-Johnson. I still think that we will be able to sign him in the next coming week. Can't wait to get the gang back together. Hopefully the Steam Pub soon. Listen, Adam, we are trying. I can tell you that. Just so many things going on right now. It is just not feasible, but eventually, yes, gang will be back together again, and getting things right and being live and doing weekly shows. Just it's a lot going on. And for everybody checking in, make sure you're popping in on a serious show every Sunday morning from 7 to 9. Loving every minute of it. If you listen, I appreciate it. If you don't, hop on. Listen, you don't need to have a subscription to call. There is a call-in number. I do have a producer. He will take you on the line. He will bring you on. So make sure you're getting involved in the conversation. Listen, if you can't, when you see me post, man, put what you want to talk about. I'll mention on the show. I have no problem with that. I love talking sports with all you guys. So I appreciate it. But in Howie we trust. Final thoughts. This will be Howie Roseman's most important offseason ever in Philadelphia Eagles history as general manager. 100%. 100%. This will be his 100% biggest test because he has to navigate the waters of free agency, a franchise quarterback, and a draft that needs to backfill a bunch of positions at loss. And he has to be wary of a Super Bowl hangover. A lot of things that happen, and not to mention losing two of your coaches, one on the offense and one on the defense. It's not an easy task. It's not an easy task. Mike says CJ is a weird cat, man. He was saying how he was showing up to practice at the Saints in slides and sweats. You know what, Mike? That doesn't matter. I'm going to tell you something right now. I'm a CJ Gardner-Johnson big time fan. I said this before and I'll say it again. This is a guy that I was told that was a cancer on the sideline, and all he did was come in and absolutely ball out. You could think and say it's for a contract. Now, this is a very grounded team. Very, very grounded team. Who was he? Listen to me. Honestly, who was he listening to out there? Who was he listening to out there? I listened to a guy named Malcolm Jenkins who said this dude's a real deal, right? I listened to a guy named Malcolm Jenkins say, yo, this kid's a real deal. Right, I watched him come in here and toe the line. Right, yeah, listen, he's a young kid, man. He's a young kid. Put stuff out on Twitter. I mean, but again, yeah, I don't think that you have anything to worry about with CJ Gardner-Johnson signing a long-term deal. I think that you 100% have to sign him. I said this before, and I'll say it again. He's going to be the most impactful player you've had at the safety position since Brian Dawkins. Honestly, since Brian Dawkins. That's the kind of impact that CJ Gardner-Johnson will make, on this team. I watched him play, man. You go back and you watch the film when he's on the field, when he comes up to stop the run, when he comes up in coverage. I led the league in interceptions, even with missing all those games. Again, the kid is an absolute stud. Absolute stud. His Twitch stream live, he was talking a lot. He likes to talk, man. He likes to talk, but that's okay. I have no problem with that. I just want him to play ball here for the Philadelphia Eagles for the next 4 to 5 years and solidify that secondary with James Bradbury, with Avonte Maddox, and whoever else is going to play corner, whether it be Slay or whether it be somebody we draft or whether it be someone we sign. That's all I know. But as always, man, thanks for everybody tuning into a fantastic show. 45 minutes is free agent fanatic frenzy. Okay. Free agency insanity, whatever you want to call it. The Philadelphia Eagles making moves. And again, this could be the most, actually, not can be, will be the most important preseason or off season, I should say, of Howie Roseman's career. So as always, man, thanks for joining us. Make sure you're following at Judge Jigsaw. Make sure you're subscribing to the show. And as always, some people have thoughts, some people have takes, but on this show, you get the final judgment.